welcome back to my channel. If you're new here, my name's Alicia and I'm a sous chef with a sweet tooth. And today we are going to be making one of my favorite Girl Scout cookies keto. I remember them as Tagalongs back in the day when I was a Girl Scout. Some of you might know them as peanut butter patties. Here's how we did it. There's 3 steps to this. There's the cookie, the peanut butter, and then dipping it in chocolate. I didn't measure out my dry ingredients. I wanted to kind of show you how I did that because measuring with just a tablespoon measure or cup measuring cups are inaccurate. I want to show you the difference that is made between just using a tablespoon measure and actually weighing them out in grams, which is why most of my recipes are in grams. It's always more accurate to weigh your ingredients, especially with baking. So I have my scale here. I'm going to turn it to grams and we'll start with the protein powder. This is actually a trick that I found online with another YouTuber, and I actually put his link below. He made ginger snap cookies, and he said the trick to getting them crispy, which is what I needed for the Tagalong cookie, was protein powder. So I got this on Amazon. The link will also be below. I used 2 tablespoons, which is 16 grams. So I got 1 here. Now that was 7, so technically this should be 8. I'll do 1 more. There's another tablespoon, and that is only 13, so I'm 3 grams short still of the 2 tablespoons, and I measured out 2 tablespoons. So then I take a little bit and I'll watch my scale and just tap it in until it gets to that 16 grams. Is very tricky too. It's very little bit between each gram, so it might not make too big a difference in your recipes, but I like to measure everything out, especially when I'm testing so many different recipes. It really pays to be accurate, because if you have one thing that's different, off by a couple grams, it could change your results. That's the egg protein powder, and then I'm using coconut flour. And you might have noticed that most of my videos have coconut flour. I just really prefer the texture. Coconut flour is just a little bit finer. So this is 55 grams, about 7 tablespoons. There's a 1/4 cup in there, 34 grams. I always sift all my dry ingredients for baking also. And then we're doing a 1/4 teaspoon of xanthan gum. And last but not least, we are adding the sugar into the dry ingredients. This is a very simple recipe. It's just all your dry ingredients, some coconut oil, vanilla, and stevia extract. You just mix it all together. And this is supposed to be 48 grams. It's easier with things like sugar because you can't pack sugar down as much as a flour. There's still a little bit extra in there. I'm gonna give this all a whisk to make sure all the xanthan gum and everything is evenly distributed, because literally we're just putting in the wet ingredients and mixing it, so you want to make sure this stuff is mixed first. We also need a little pinch of salt. I'm just going to do a little Himalayan sea salt. I got my dry ingredients in here, and I've already went ahead and melted 4 tablespoons of coconut oil. I used the refined expeller press because I'm not a huge fan of coconut flavor, and you already get some from the flour, but you can also use butter. Okay, so then you just mix your coconut oil, a little bit of stevia extract, and vanilla into your dry ingredients. I kind of try to mix it like loosely first to get the vanilla incorporated, because I found that if you don't like mix it with just some of the dry ingredients, you'll get spots of vanilla extract throughout your batter instead of getting it incorporated. Pretty much want a nice dough. It is going to be a little difficult to work with, but it comes out nice and crispy in the end. Pretty much want it to form a loose dough. You want it pretty dry so that you get a dry cookie. Try to get it about a 1/4 inch thick. You can also put a piece of parchment paper on top and just roll it out with a rolling pin. I like to be able to see what I'm doing and just kind of have it by feel. I'm using just a shot glass. This turned out to be like the perfect size for me. Use any kind of round cookie cutter you want. So I just cut it like that, and then I use my offset spatula and I put it onto a piece of parchment paper. Keep doing that. Dough is really easy just to form to cut out more. You don't really have to worry about overworking too much because there is no gluten. If you notice that they're a little bit thicker than your other ones, just pat them out a little bit and give them another little cut. Okay, so I got all my cookies out here. They're not going to spread at all, so you can put them pretty close together. And this is where you can just go and bake them. I have my oven set at 350. If you want to bake them like this, set it when you start mixing your batter. But if you're going to do this part, it's going to take a little while, so you can heat your oven now. And all you're going to do is do a little indent. They kind of break a little bit, but you just squish them back together on the edges, and you kind of want to make them bigger on the edges, thinner in the middle. That's going to create the little divot for the peanut butter that we're going to be pouring into this. The peanut butter mixture isn't that runny, so you're not going to like spill it over the top of it or anything. We make it just liquidy enough for it to be pourable. I'm going to throw these in the oven. Keep a close eye on them. You do want them nice and golden brown so that they'll be nice and crispy. About 7 to 10 minutes. I'm going to throw them in for 5, turn them, check them, see how many more minutes we need, and I'll be back once they're cooled for a little bit to show you the peanut butter and the chocolate. These are the cookies out of the oven. It takes a while for them to cool and to set up and be really crispy. So you want to make sure you don't move them too much because they will fall apart on you. Now I got the peanut butter. I have 2 tablespoons of butter and some Locanto powdered sugar sweetener in a measuring cup because it's going to make it super easy to pour into all the cookies. I'm going to microwave this until it's nice and creamy and smooth. Okay, so that took only about 30 seconds. We're going to carefully pour into the center of each one of these. Okay, so last time the peanut butter was a little bit thicker, not as runny, so I took a little offset spatula to smooth them out a little bit. This one looks good though. It looks like I heated it up just the right amount. If you don't have any cake decorating tools of any kind and you're looking to buy anything, this is the one thing I would say comes in handy the most. Very versatile tool. Pop them in the refrigerator for a couple minutes just to get them nice and solidified so that we can dip them into chocolate. While those cookies are getting more solid so we can dip them, I wanted to talk to you about the chocolate we're using. And I found out when I made this recipe that Lily's has the 3 kinds of chocolate chips and they all do still have carbs in them. I figured it out with the dark chocolate chips, and they're actually, for each cookie is 3 grams of net carbs. Now my favorite's milk chocolate, but that's even higher in carbs. The semi-sweet chocolate chips barely have any, so that makes each cookie only 1.2 net carbs. I recommend, and I put it in the recipe below, to use Lily's semi-sweet chocolate chips. You can always sweeten your chocolate, so I use my stevia drops to make my chocolate however sweet I want it. Now the only problem with chocolate, it is a little finicky, so if you add too much liquid to it, it will seize up on you. If it gets too hot, it'll seize up on you. My rule of thumb is just add little by little until it's the sweetness you want. And if it does seize up, you got to add a little bit more oil to make it smooth again. But definitely do not overheat. If it's getting thick on you, do not put it back into the microwave thinking it just needs to be hotter. And another little pastry tip, not even, it's more of a consumer warning. I do a lot of chocolate dipping, so I'm going to buy like a chocolate dipping kit. There's like a wire, like little spoon dipper thing, and I used it, and it's no better, if not worse, than just a plain old fork. And I'll show you how I do that once these cookies are a little bit more cooled. The cookies are almost ready to dip, so we are going to start melting our chocolate. So I'm gonna pop this into the microwave. I have a tablespoon of coconut oil and 7 ounces of chocolate, and then I'm going to add my stevia once it's kind of melted and I can taste it to see how sweet it is. Pretty much every microwave has hot spots, so you want to just make sure you're stirring it because it is melting over on one side, not on the other. And you are perched right on top of my microwave, so that's why I'm so close right now. Another trick to melting chocolate is you do not want to keep microwaving it until all the chips are gone, because the residual heat in the chocolate will melt the little pieces that are in there, and that'll keep you from overheating your chocolate. Okay, now I'm going to add my stevia. I'm going to start with half of a teaspoon and see where that gets me. Again, this is all up to you. It looked like that started seizing. I'm my chocolate a little bit. So if I add more, it might seize all together. See, it just got like a little bit thicker, which that's not really what you want. You want it nice and runny so you can dip your cookies easier. Yeah, that's still really bitter to me. Of course, I don't have that keto sweet tooth yet where dark chocolate tastes sweet to me. So I am going to add a little bit more. We might get seizing, and I'll show you how to fix it if we do. Another ½ teaspoon. Yeah, it got a little bit thicker. A lot of times when that happens, I just add more coconut oil to it. I'm going to add probably another tablespoon to that. I made it a little bit more smooth and runny. You can see it'll actually run off my spatula, as where before it was almost just clumped onto it. So that works. I might give it another little blast just because putting that stuff in it did cool it a tiny bit, just to make sure it's the right consistency we need. Blast it for 10 more seconds. Like I said, you don't want to heat it too much. Should be good. I'm going to check my cookies. So they are solid. I have a baking sheet with a silicone mat. I just find it easier with working with chocolate just to have silicone, but it should be perfectly fine on a piece of parchment paper. Okay, so we got our chocolate. It's just a little bit warm. So I put a cookie face down into the chocolate, then give it a little flip. And then you take it to the side with your fork. Give it some really good solid taps. Get all that excess chocolate off. And you make the top really nice and smooth. I just scrape the bottom a little bit. I put it right down on the silk pat like that. And that is your little keto Tagalong cookie. You do want to work kind of quick. If your stuff does start to get, you know, a little bit too soft, you can pop it back in the fridge. This also gets out all the little air bubbles that you'll see in your chocolate. Okay, so we're just about done here. I got my last one in here. And if you really want to be very precise with your macros, you can measure whatever chocolate you have left, and that'll tell you how much chocolate you actually used. It's always easier to do this with more chocolate than less chocolate. There you go, 15 Tagalongs. These, to me, look exactly like the Tagalongs I had as a kid, but it has been a long, long time. So let me know in the comments below how close I got to the look of Tagalongs. If there's any Girl Scout cookies that you want to see keto or that you haven't been able to find a recipe for, let me know and I'll try those ones out. So we are going to pop these in the fridge. It's very hard for them to set in room temperature. I'll be back to plane them up and give them a try. Okay, these are all set up now. That's where this spatula comes in handy. These do get a little melty when they're not in the fridge, but they are delicious straight out of the fridge. I always keep my Girl Scout cookies in the refrigerator. Oh, whole stack of Tagalongs, aka peanut butter patties. Gotta give one of these a try. You can see, got like a hump of peanut butter in there. They remind me of the Girl Scout cookies, that's for sure. Like I said, I haven't had any in a long time, but even like the bottom looks perfect. They look just like I remember them. If you enjoy this video, please subscribe below. Hit that like button. I really appreciate it. Leave a comment if you have something that you want me to make keto for you. I'll gladly do it. This was not requested by anybody. It was just something I was craving at the time. Like, I'm just going to make some Tagalong cookies. I hope you guys make these at home. If you do, leave me a comment. Let me know how they turn out. And I will see you again soon. Bye.